The precautionary Shahadah. Saying the precautionary Shahadah is to immediately say the Shahadah because of the possibility of being a blasphemer. One must immediately say it if he doubts about having committed blasphemy and knows how to distinguish belief from blasphemy. But it's very, very, very important here to know that the word doubt in this subject is not what the scholars of fiqh mean by doubt. The scholars of fiqh, when they say doubt, they mean 50-50. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But in Aqidah, when we say doubt, it means even the slightest amount of uncertainty. One must immediately say it if he doubts about having committed blasphemy and knows how to distinguish blasphemy from belief. Here, if he doubts about having committed blasphemy, there's an important detail here. Sometimes a person says something or something like that, and then he stops and thinks, whoa, was that kufr? So that is a doubt there at that moment. But in this case, he does not commit blasphemy when he doubted it this instance, because here he has a reason to think about his case. So it's valid for him to think about his case here. And if he determines that he did not, that was not blasphemy, then he does not have to say his shahada. So we don't say that in this instant, if he doubted, the doubt that he had in this instant made him a kafir. It's important to have this case understood because some people say the wrong judgment about this. And they tell people, if you doubt that you committed kufr, you don't have to say precautionary shahada immediately. It's only sunnah for you. The meaning of doubting if he committed kufr here is that he knows that something is kufr. He knows it's kufr for sure, but he's not sure if he did that. So now he's doubting, maybe actually I did do that. So then he says precautionary shahada. And even in this case, if a person just paused to think about his case for a moment, just to be sure that he's doubting about that, to be sure that he understands everything clearly, he doesn't commit kufr there, just to stop to think about his case, to understand. And some people think that they might have committed blasphemy for a case that they didn't rush to its answer. They think, what about the fact that I didn't rush to the answer? Is it blasphemy? Not necessarily. Depends on what is the issue, but we're not going to say that a person has no permission to think about his case so that he acts with knowledge. So one must immediately say it if he doubts about having committed blasphemy and knows how to distinguish blasphemy from belief. He does not say the precautionary shahada if he doubts about something being blasphemy or not. He says it when he knows that something is blasphemy without doubt, but doubts about whether that occurred from him or not. So, two different things that are very important for the person to distinguish and not to confuse them. Sometimes a person doesn't know if something is blasphemy or not. Now, if a person committed blasphemy and he doesn't know if it's blasphemy or not, then he's unable to get out of that blasphemy until he knows that it's blasphemy. Then he can say the shahada with the intention to abandon it. But as long as he doesn't know that it's blasphemy, he won't be releasing it or disavowing it. So you don't say a precautionary shahada when you don't know if something is blasphemy or not. Rather, sometimes a person knows that something is blasphemy, he just doesn't know if he did it or not. Now, that's when you say precautionary shahada. Whether you're absolutely certain immediately that's blasphemy and I might have done that, and you don't have to think about it, so you say precautionary shahada. Or someone reminds you about something, and then you say, oh, that's blasphemy. Yeah, did I do that? And then you just think for a moment, and you want to recall events or make sure you understand a case, and then you might arrive at a point where you say, I could have done that. So then you say precautionary shahada immediately. So he does not say the precautionary shahada if he doubts about something being blasphemy or not. He says it when he knows that something is blasphemy without doubt, but doubts about whether that occurred from him or not. Like saying a seeming statement of blasphemy, not explicit blasphemy. It could have two meanings. It seems like blasphemy, but it's not explicit. Then forgetting which meaning he intended. He honestly forgot. Did I mean the kufr meaning or not? Then he says precautionary shahada. Doubting if he repented from some past blasphemy. So he knows that something is blasphemy. And then he doubts, did I leave that blasphemy? So if he doubts that he had abandoned it, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, he says precautionary shahada. Doing something that the scholars have differed about it being blasphemy or not. For example, if a person saw the name of Allah in a dirty place and he did not pick it up out of laziness, not out of belittling it, not because he doesn't respect the name itself, but just out of laziness, he didn't go to get it and pick it up, and he was able. Is it blasphemy or it's not blasphemy? Some scholars said it's blasphemy. Some said it's not blasphemy. Or some other things that the scholars differed about, if it's blasphemy or not. So doing something that the scholars have differed about it being blasphemy or not, if one did that, he can say a precautionary shahada. Saying the precautionary shahada does not benefit the one who does not know how to identify blasphemy, nor does saying the shahada out of the remembrance of Allah. If he's a kafir and he's just saying the shahada as dhikr, then his dhikr is not valid. Even if he said it 100 times or 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times. This, i.e., the case when one does not acknowledge his blasphemy, yet he utters the shahada habitually, is what the scholars meant when saying that uttering the shahada out of habit does not benefit. Blasphemy is not forgiven except for the one who embraces Islam at a time when it is valid. Thus, sometimes uttering the shahada does not change the person's status, like when seeing the angel of death, too late. When hopeless of survival, like the case of the drowning pharaoh. Yani, for sure, the way they say it is عند اليأس, when a person has no hope of living. He says he delays his shahada till he has no hope left to live, then that's not valid. Like the case of the drowning pharaoh, when one's soul has reached his throat, when the sun rises from the west as a sign of the hour, and the door of repentance will be closed. Some may say one needs an intention to come back to Islam, meaning that he needs to specify this intention in his heart. He does not have to say a specific intention in his heart, like, I now say the shahada to return to Islam. More so, he does not have to utter that with his tongue. It is better, what does he have to do to get out of kufr? All he has to do to get out of kufr is know that The issue is blasphemy. Hate blasphemy, not accepting it, and say the Shahada. Like that, that's enough. Now, like we said, if his case is that he committed blasphemy and he forgot that he committed it and he never remembered, then if he says the Shahada out of habit, he will be a Muslim. That's what we learned. It is better for the one who said the precautionary Shahada to renew his marriage contract. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdi.